I first started training in my martial arts career, 15 years old, teenager. I was getting into a lot of trouble. I was looking for mentors, and I just stumbled onto the local martial arts academy, and it just so happens one of the guys that was the owner was Steve Jenna.
He's a uniformed police officer from Omaha, Nebraska, Steve Jenna.
These guys were the leaders that I looked up to, that these mentors shaped the way I handled myself, built my confidence, my overall fitness, my wellness. I had to eat right, I had to stay away from alcohol, build myself into a better person.
I'm a big fan of Ryan Jensen.
Ryan Jensen is trained with everyone in the world of mixed martial arts.
I was a part of dynasties of MMA. I trained with Militech fighting systems. I was a part of Team Quest in Portland, Oregon. Everybody that were champions way back at the beginning of UFC, Matt Lindland, Randy Couture, Dan Henderson, so Ed Herman, Chael Sonnen, Nate the Rock Corey. I ended up rolling down to Greg Jackson's camp down in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Later, they became one of the biggest dynasties in mixed martial arts. Dr. Stark's always been a mentor of mine. Jack put together all the mental training aspects of what professional athletes do. So all those things that you have to use as a professional athlete on the mental game side of it, we translated that into the officer side of it too. I think of these officers as tactical athletes. Like for law enforcement officers, a lot of those times it's life or death situations. They only have 1 to 2 seconds to respond to certain situations. If they're not in that peak performance or they're not looking at, improving their health, that can cost them their lives. As CEO of CTC, I oversee all the curriculums and implement the strategies with our expert staff to achieve our vision of changing police training culture and equipping our officers for a better future. Our Tactical Athlete program is the #1 holistic law enforcement training system, focusing on wellness, fitness, mental health, legal aspects, de-escalation, and effective control tactics. With 30 years of martial arts experience, including being a UFC vet and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, I bring the professional athlete side of training to our programs. Our in-depth instructor course ensures your instructors are effective leaders and mentors, creating a positive, safe training environment for your staff. We are dedicated to providing the highest quality of training for law enforcement officers, setting that standard for holistic and safe training. One of the main reasons I'm so passionate about training police officers, correctional officers, security, is that these early mentors guided me on a different life path than what I was going down. I want to give back to that community. Okay, good afternoon, CLA leaders and partners. I'm Ryan Jensen, the CEO of Complete Tactical Consultants. Today I'm going to share with you how we're going to build your officers into better officers, how we're going to inspire your staff to perform with confidence. As CEOs, we need to be effective leaders. We need to find the right people, place them correctly, and then inspire them with a vision. My vision for TAP has always been to create and revolutionize law enforcement training with a holistic approach. As a former pro athlete, lifetime martial artist, my contribution is tactics and fitness. I bring all the hydration, sleep, nutrition, the workouts, and all the stress management routines. As a professional athlete, we want to give that to your staff so we can transform their lives so they're well prepared for their roles and duties. How did this program all start? About 30 years ago, I started training with martial arts. I started training with a lot of law enforcement correctional officers, and one of my old training partners, John Stuck, came into the gym, and we needed to clean up some of his tactics. We needed to make them a little bit more simple, a little bit more effective. The higher level I got in my pro career, the more simple and basic those techniques needed to be, so I had a solid foundation, so I could compete at those highest levels. And this is the conversation that me and John had, that we knew that our officers needed that type of comprehensive training. We knew that this was a solution to some of the problems that we see, and that's why we started the Tactical Athlete program. Our vision for TAP has always been to create the most complete curriculum, to ensure officers get safe, positive, and consistent training. This is the TAP story. This is the people that built it. I want to thank all of you guys for your time. And remember, our goal through this presentation is to make you guys the heroes of your organizations.
on the back of his tricep, and I'm going to from ourselves and ourselves. My name is John Stuck, police officer for the last 25 years. Before that, I was in the United States Army, been an assistant SWAT commander, the lead defensive tactics instructor for my department. I've been labeled as an expert in federal and state court as a use of force expert. Trained with Ryan, he beat me up several times prior to going in the military. When I came back, I started to realize that some of the techniques that I was doing was very flawed and not being very technical. I was using just more brute strength, more muscling techniques, and Ryan was helping me clean those things up and how to use these techniques. Well, when we started doing that, we also started talking about it in law enforcement. We see a lot of these things in law enforcement where officers just kind of do this muscling techniques. They grab somebody, yank them down to the ground. It's just kind of what I call a polyester pig pile. They're not using what they're learning. So Ryan and I kind of collaborated a little bit and started putting together some techniques. Your finger guns at me just like this, right? Left hand, right hand. Throughout time, we've been training with the old block and silo method, right? We just go there, read this book, take this test, do this technique, see you later. That method, we know there's very little officers that are retaining that once they leave here. Our system differentiates from a lot of other systems because we deal with the totality of everything. We deal with a holistic from A to Z of being a police officer. From the time when you put your uniform on, we talk about and go through how you are mentally prepared, the legal guidelines you have, how you can de-escalate somebody. So what do we do when we go hands-on? What are the terminology that we have to use? We work with how to work with multiple officers. There's no other systems out there that work on multiple officer techniques. We're trying to make it safe for us, safe for the suspect. We're attempting to accomplish something by when we're using these systems to get that person to comply quicker, faster, so nobody gets hurt, to include the officer, the public, and even the suspect we're attempting to subdue.
I'm obviously one of the knuckle draggers of the group, so I don't know how to do all the technical stuff, so we'll go from there. I'd like to say thank you right off the bat to President Jeffries and the Executive Director Kemp for bringing us up here to do this. One of the things that I've heard President Jeffries say ever since we've been talking to him is one of the things is change the culture. One of the things that I've heard throughout my law enforcement career, almost 30 years, from the military to corrections to the police world, is when we do something, what do we hear? Because we've always done it that way, right? How many times have you guys heard that stuff? It goes up phenomenal. That's the way we've always done it. So we've come up to a system where we come up and say, hey, look, we're tired of the way it's doing because people aren't retaining this. Just upstairs while we're running our booth, at our booth, I've had several agencies come through, from sheriff's departments, corrections, military. Do you know what each one of them said? We're learning the system, but it doesn't work. They're walking away from your training and literally saying it doesn't work. If the people that are coming up that we're doing this as leaders, because there's only two ways to change this, right? The first way we have to do is leadership. And we obviously see with the two gentlemen up there with the leadership in place, they want to see a change. They know that there's a necessary reason for a change. So to do that, to accomplish it, then we have to do the second part. Since leadership's in place, let's look at what we train and how we train. Block and silo, we already know isn't working. It's sometimes, as leader, I'm a commander, it's just to check a box. Well, we taught you. But do you feel comfortable them going out there, putting their lives on the line to be able to say, we checked that box though? We want to get away from that. So we started this holistic approach where we start from A to Z. I won't steal any of the thunderbolt stuff that's going to be said for you here in a little bit, but I'll focus a little bit more on the combatives. So on the combative side, we learn techniques that not only just work, these aren't techniques that we're teaching you some Pythagorean theorem on how to do this technique and leave you out there and go and you're not going to retain it. We're going to show you adult learning on how these techniques can be not only effective, to not only make sure that your officers don't get hurt and the suspect doesn't, and it's video friendly. We love our techniques shown on video. I'll give you an example. Who here, probably most of this room with commanders and leaders, review uses of force? Just give me a show of hands, just out of curiosity. Quite a bit. How many times in those videos have you seen stop resisting and stop fighting? Quite a bit, pretty much most of them, right? Has it ever worked? No. Executive Director Kemp's laughing. It doesn't work. So why are we doing it? Why? You can echo what I said earlier, because that's what we've always done. So we're not getting what we want out of this technique, so let's train it different. So we're training with us, to give example, multiple officer techniques. We teach when we have these multiple officers coming up against these individuals. We're diverting their attention, dividing their attention, top, high, and low, going to them. We're not having to throw strikes. We're going down there and being able to get this person in custody without, again, injuries to our officers, innocents standing by, and the suspect. And again, we give them specific commands for this reason. If I say get your arm out, and I know I'm getting deep in the weeds, but I want to get that to make this a point and drive it home, we say those things because we're trying to change a culture. We're doing the system and the techniques that we're doing because they're not complying. So when you review that video and you see person X wasn't putting his arm out, it's clearly, I can hear it on the video, clearly a witness is standing by. The other thing in our system that we teach with multiple officer techniques is this: the culture of help a partner out. We look at, sometimes, as me, you can look, I'm a very emotional person. You guys over here laughing, you don't know who. I went through EQI coaching and assessment, so I've been through that. I had to find out that hungry is not an actual emotion. So I learned it all over. But we get emotional as cops and law enforcement. If you tell me someone's spitting at you, throwing bodily fluids on you or something like that, you're not gonna get upset, I'm gonna call BS on you. You're not telling the truth. That person's gonna be emotionally charged. But a lot of times you see those videos, we have partners with us that may not be as much emotionally invested. We teach in our system, when we're doing these techniques, for how those officers to intervene and that they need to intervene. Help a partner out. When we do that, we make sure the success of not only us getting this person into custody, but how much better does it look like when we're holding our own people accountable during these incidences. The last part is, and I'll segue into Dr. Stark, is what do we do post? We kind of think when we get involved in some of these use of force situations that there's nothing afterwards that's gonna happen. No, we're emotionally charged. We got all these emotions running through our body, all these things, and the doctor will talk about it way beyond the scope that I can even begin to fathom. But when we have those chemical releases, how do we handle them and how do we go through this? So from there, Dr. Stark.
I asked the #1 researcher in the world and guru on leadership, what's the most important thing? And he said, you know, Jack, all of them are smart. But what really happens with people is they get in trouble with character. They don't make good decisions. They don't have EQ, emotional quotient skills. They're smart with IQ. And the key thing in leadership today is all about the culture you build. Culture. Culture is how you think, act, and behave. Culture is determined by the leaders in that company or that jail or that correctional institution. Those leaders at the top create the culture, and those leaders are determined by their personality characteristics. Personality characteristics which are formed by the age of 25. These personality characteristics, I summarize them into 9 areas, and they spell character. By reading the material that you've been shared with in this book, Championship Formula, which I've used and researched for 30 years, be able to win 22 national championship rings, working with corporations, Fortune 500 companies, etc. That book will help you understand how, as a leader, you can function following those characteristics that make your personality shine, and also then the steps you need to employ to make the company really work as a leader on a day-to-day basis. Second point I'd like to point out is you got to take care of your health and your mental health as a leader. You've got to be around. Let me give you an example. I worked for Warren Buffett in one of his companies on one of his boards. He had a talk before the football team that I asked him to speak at, a national championship team at Nebraska. He spoke in front of the entire team. And he said, fellas, here's the deal. I'm going to do something for you. I'm going to give you a car, any car you want. Everybody in this room, all you players get cars. I was getting nervous in the back of the room, like, we can't do this, it's illegal. He said, there's just one problem with your car. It's the only car you get for the rest of your life. You see, that's your body. You've got to take good care of it. Keep it in mind. You've got to take care of your body. You've got to get good medical care, get your lab reports done, and stay in health, get your sleep, work out, and eat right. Next thing that's very important is mental health. It used to be 18 to 19% of people in this country had mental health issues. Now it's closer to 60 because of COVID and post-COVID. So the key thing with mental health is this. 25 years ago was when it really started in this country. It's called Columbine. Columbine had 2 seniors in high school, nice kids, grew up in a nice family, the richest suburb in the nation outside of Denver. These 2 individuals decided that they were going to go into school. They murdered 13 individuals, committed suicide, and injured another 24. I was brought in by one of my minister friends who had a church right next to the school. I landed at 9 o'clock. At 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock, I saw 8 Lutheran ministers for 1 hour each. 2 of these individuals buried the shooters. In addition, I then that night went and made a home visit to one of the girls who was shot and paralyzed from the chest down. They asked me to help out with wheelchairs, lifts, etc. The father told me he couldn't work at his job because it was too stressful. His son was depressed, and his wife had gone to a pawn shop, looked at a gun, put a bullet in it, and committed suicide in the pawn shop. The next morning, we went to church. I was able to speak to the TV crew that were interviewing me. I said to him, you guys can leave. I'm going to speak to these 200 families that are here from Columbine. She said no. The girl from the TV station said, Jack, we had to hire a psychologist for us at the TV station because it's been so traumatic for us. I spoke to all the family members, and what I learned from this whole sort of thing is it's beginning to be embedded everywhere. It's not just people in certain parts of town and people going through stressful stuff. So you've got to be able to be an authority and expert in health and mental health issues. Next, third thing, de-escalation. Material you have that you can download on this program are 6 audio tapes. Each audio tape is something I put together, went to a studio, recorded. It took me 30 years to put all this research together. I keep updating it. You download your phone. I have found out that each of these 6 tapes help us get through anxiety, depression, panic attacks, visualization, how to perform better, hypnosis, so I can really get rid of the post-traumatic stress disorder, and sleep. Those are the characteristics that are downloaded on your phone through the TAP program. I'm in the process of finishing up my 12th book. It's all called The Top Gun Performance, and it will give a chapter on each of the 6 tapes in depth, 30 pages. It's developed with a colleague of mine who is now president of Ohio State University. He was the Top Gun of Top Gun. The movie was about him going in, shooting a missile into a shaft, blowing up a communications center in a country unannounced. This book is going to be available in about 4 or 5 months, and it's something that you can buy and then give to your staff so that people can download these tapes by looking at a QR code to their phones, or you can get it through this training through this program here. I hope that this is helpful to you in learning how to be a superstar, a Top Gun performer. I'm honored to be here. My background is as a performance psychologist, which is a combination of medical psychology, sports psychology, and organizational psychology. I've attended lots of training sessions and given lots of them, and based on my experience and research, what I find is that many of you in this room will attend maybe 100, 200 training conferences in your career, but you'll probably only remember 2 or 3 or 4. And a few of those that change your behavior. So what I'd like to share with you is each morning when I wake up, I say a little prayer. I want to be healthy, happy, and successful. Let's talk about being healthy. It's very important. I saw 100,000 patient visits. It's very important to take care of your health. You got to get a good doc who's going to spend a half hour with you. The average amount of time today is 12 minutes. It's not good. Second, you got to get your labs done, and you have to know them and study them. Really focus on CRP, C-reactive protein. That's your inflammation score. It's the most important score you want to look at. Be sure to make sure your vitamin D scores are high. All those COVID cases, almost all of them were real low in vitamin D. You want to follow up and have that physician, and you want to be able to have a relationship with that physician. It's really important. The second thing you want to be is happy. How do you be happy? There's 3 things that we found in research, tracking people over years. The first thing is you want to find your passion, your purpose in life. In Latin, it's called nos te ipsum. Know thyself. Who are you? Why are you here? Is this what you want to do with your life? Second, a love, someone to share your life with. If you find your life partner, your soulmate, you're very blessed. And third is very important. I was lucky to have someone to be a mentor. And that mentor needs to hold you accountable. Don't ever underestimate the power of exercise. We're finding more research all the time. We get rid of 1/3 of our dementias and half of our diseases because of inflammation through a really extensive exercise program. Sleep and nutrition is also quite important. The last thing, it's very important, is finding success. How do you find success? Well, just so we make sure here, I do all the research on this book. It took me 2-3 years. This is my 11th. Next one's coming. I write it myself. We make no money off of them. We buy the books, Ryan and I, and we give them away free. Why do we do that? We want to give our skills away to you. That's the way it happens out there. I'm finding that those 9 characteristics I talked about determine your personality and your leadership. And that's what affects your whole environment. That changes your culture, because cultures, as I said, is determined by your people skills, by your leadership skills. Yes, I do a lot of EQ training, etc. But your personality will change, particularly your supervisors. That's the backbone of your organizations. And if they're doing the negative training, insulting their people, it doesn't work. Money is the 5th motivator. Number 1 is feeling a part of an organization, being appreciated. That's the most important kind of thing. Also part of this, the book and stuff, we'll download the tapes. I made these audio tapes, and they've been very effective. I've been blessed to be a part of 22 national championship teams, from NASCAR 8, football 8, from pros, college, players of the year, Heisman Trophy, you name them all. That stuff all works out. So I'm pleased to be here and happy to answer questions when we get all done with this. But I hope you find this helpful and useful to you. And we look forward. And I want to just say this: I've been in this business my whole career. 100,000 patient visits. It takes a toll on you. I deeply appreciate what all of you do. It makes a difference. I mean, I've worked with a lot of people on their deathbed. They've never once said to me, I wish I had more money. All of them say to me, I wish I'd made more of a difference. Close with this. One time I had a patient cancellation. I usually didn't have any. It was amazing to go that long without 100,000 visits and only have just a few. I went to the restaurant and had lunch, and the guy came to me and said, you know, Jack, what are you doing here? We haven't seen you in a long time. I said, well, I had a cancellation. He looked at me and he stared at me for a minute and he said, you know, Jack, I've been in the insurance business. At least you did something with your life. I just made a lot of money. God bless you, and walked off. So thank you for this. Appreciate being here.
My name is Dr. Michael Hawkins. I have a PhD in history with an emphasis in social and cultural history. For the last 15 years, I've been working in academia as a professor and consulting with the military. I address the cultural influences, perceptions, and context that frame the overall encounter. And so by synthesizing these 3 things, what we want to try to do is to create a culture and a context wherein we have the peaceful resolution of any encounters with police. The approach we want to take is we want to train our officers to really engage with the community, where they really have a deep down cultural knowledge of the communities in which they police, that conflict resolution and de-escalation comes almost natural. A lot of times police officers are called upon to go into communities where they don't understand the cultural values, and so what they assume is a polite approach or a direct approach is really a cultural taboo. I deal with Asian history, and Southeast Asians in particular, for example, are not comfortable with confrontations. And so what will often happen is you ask them a direct question and they will sort of circumvent the issue, and officers assume you're lying to me. And so what you need to do when you have cultural awareness in a particular community like this is to know how to ask the proper questions. Family's having a quinceañera, the music is too loud, the neighbors call, police officers show up, and if they don't have a knowledge of a couple of things about the event, then it can turn into a confrontation. If a police officer shows up to a quinceañera and understands this is the most important day in this young girl's life until she gets married, the officer will understand the cultural values inherent in this event and approach it a little bit differently than, hey, you're annoying, can you turn the music down? Not only will the family holding the quinceañera appreciate the officer's understanding and knowledge of what's going on, but the officer will similarly have an appreciation of what is being seen. After 20 years in the business, I have never seen an educational value like this program. I truly believe this is going to make a positive difference.
Well, my name is Dr. Michael Hawkins, and I want to start by thanking you all so much for having us today. I can say you guys do conferences way better than the academics do. This is way more fun than what I'm used to. So just a little background on me, as I said in the video, prior to this, I was 15 years in academia. I was a full professor at Creighton. During that time, I worked as a social and cultural historian. Most of my publications were history and ethnography. I also had the wonderful opportunity to do quite a bit of consulting with the military, so I would give cultural briefings to special forces units, I advised linguistic implementation programs and did pretty extensive work with Stratcom in the Intel community, kind of orienting them to my part of the world. But after 15 years in academia, I mean, just like Doc said, I've kind of found a new purpose. And not only have I found a new purpose, but after really 20 years in academia, including the PhD program, just the educational aspect of this has lit me up. I mean, during COVID, we developed all kinds of online education platforms, and I have never seen anything like what Ryan has put together. And so it's a real privilege for me to be a part of it. So my role in the system is cultural competency and community engagement. And really the course consists of three things. We want to do three things. First part of the course is we want law enforcement officers to have a fundamental understanding of what culture is and how it works and why it's a facet of the human experience. And so by understanding the way that it works beyond, oh, culture is a symphony or culture is an ethnic festival, we want to go beyond culture is associated exclusively with ethno-linguistic identities. And so we want to branch out into cultures of socioeconomic class, cultures of geography, cultures of place, and really take a comprehensive approach. Then after we establish that, the next thing we want to do is endow our officers with the ability of cultural self-awareness. And I think this is the funnest part of the course. But we explore the cultural perceptions and values and impulses that really shape their interaction with the community. And so oftentimes, as Stuck was talking about, we get an officer that's upset or the world appears irrational to him or her. And so we really dig down and help them to understand the cultural impulses that are creating those perceptions. And we have a lot of really fun exercises to do that. And then finally, we want to end with cultural competency and community engagement for effective policing. And so I did quite a bit of ethnographic work when I was an academic, and what we try to do is really endow our officers with almost a kind of ethnographic mind, where they can go into a community and they can begin to identify, discern, and understand the cultural values, perceptions, and impulses that animates that community. And once they're aware of their own culture, once they're aware of the culture of the people that are under their care, the people that they serve and protect, all of a sudden we kind of have a magical moment in law enforcement, particularly combined with Doc's material on understanding your emotions, self-regulation, and then of course Jason's going to talk about his tactics of de-escalation. And when you get that trifecta together, it's magic. I mean, you're going to have magic. And so what we're going to see is lower probabilities of conflict. We're going to have higher levels of community integration where the officers really feel like they're a part of the communities that they serve in, and the people are going to feel like the officers are similarly members of their community as opposed to agents of the state, right? And this is really what we're going for, and I think we can make a real difference with it. So thank you so much.
My name is Jason Civitano, and I'm one of the lead instructors for the Complete Tactical Consultants Tactical Athlete Program. I've been with CTC since its inception more than 7 years ago.
So, agency practice also.
So we've got law enforcement officers from Nebraska, Texas, Arizona.
This week, and talking with fellow instructors, there isn't anybody here.
But we've taken the program well beyond just the use of force and applying tactics in a confrontational situation. We stress that officers should be able to attempt to de-escalate situations whenever feasible, and the needs of the department should be considered in use of force cases. We want to have our officers write complete, concise, and descriptive reports in use of force incidents. We discuss all of these attributes of the program with everyone who attends any of our classes. De-escalation has become one of the most popular and most frequently used terms to describe interactions between police and the community, as well as inmates within correctional facilities. But what does de-escalation actually mean? De-escalation is a concept as an opportunity for an officer to engage with a suspect, somebody in crisis, somebody in conflict, or an inmate in a very tense and uncertain situation. During this time, Officers should attempt to have time and distance to their advantage in order to create a safer environment for all people involved. If you're not clear in your use of force reports, you could be in trouble. You could be prosecuted. You could be faced with discipline because you're not giving information for the reader. All they have to rely on is a video, and videos never look good. Report writing is key. Throughout our organization in the videos and our classes, we always say our goal is to change the culture of an organization. By doing so, we create success. When we say change the culture, we want people to be excited about the training, about nutrition, about mental health, and about professionalism. That's where we created the foundation. And by changing the culture, we now create positivity. There's no other program in the country that is built like the Tactical Athlete program. No other program has all of the components combined into one complete system. It's built on a solid foundation that is legally and medically backed. We want to improve the culture. We want to save lives. We want you to be the heroes.
Good afternoon. I'm Jason Cimitano. I've been in law enforcement for 29 years. I've been a law enforcement trainer for 25 years. Everything from the tactics, firearms, and about 15 years ago, I really got deeply involved in the other half of what we do. Writing complete reports, human interaction with one another, being effective, analyzing situations to determine, is this somewhere where force is needed, or do we have another option here? Can we talk somebody into a position of compliance? And if we have that opportunity, how do we train our officers to assess that incident and then to effectively communicate with someone else? We focus deeply on these fundamentals because, as John said earlier, what's been shown over decades of research, block and silo training is ineffective. We have now interleaved all of these different subjects into one complete program, and throughout the program, we teach the instructors how to utilize all this information and then how to communicate this information to your staff so that we decrease use of force incidents, we decrease injuries, we increase professionalism, and in the end, we change the culture within the law enforcement and correctional communities. We see it on the news every night. It's up to us as leaders in our professions in these industries to change the perspective of everybody out there who views us. And we can do it if we work together. Active listening. It's the #1 failure anywhere in law enforcement. We're always thinking of the next question or the next command. What do I want you to do? Hey, you gotta go lock down. Rather than listening to what the inmate is communicating, we're already ahead of it and we don't listen. We miss key indicators on potentially how we can de-escalate this situation and gain compliance with no force being used. It doesn't always work. It does not always work. There are times when de-escalation is not effective. Maybe it's because we can't make contact, and I'm not even talking about physically, but if the person we're dealing with is in such a crisis that they're mentally unable to have a cognizant conversation, we are not going to make contact, and therefore we will not de-escalate the situation. But with some of the skills that our staff has discussed with you, the officers maintaining personal control, self-discipline, and understanding the situation, asking for more resources. Now, once again, we're going to reduce the amount of force being used, we're going to gain control of this individual, and then we're going to follow up with any type of movements that we need. We focus on these really clearly. Finally, report writing. I've been a report writing instructor for the last 20 years, and it is my #1 complaint in use of force incidents, bar none. Well, maybe equally to that is we don't give loud verbal commands of what they want, what we actually want people to do. But report writing, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are reviewers of force incidents, it is the most impactful thing that you will read in a use of force review for this reason. Video does not tell any of us what the officer was thinking, feeling, perceiving, understanding, and what the emergency was in their head. They have to communicate that information. Words like Subject was combative. Subject was resistant. Subject was fighting mean absolutely nothing, because each one of us in this room have a different definition of what that means. What specifically was the individual doing or not doing? What level of compliance or non-compliance were they demonstrating during this incident? When we gave verbal commands, what was their response, if there was one at all? All of that information should be contained in these use of force reports, so that once you've read that and then you watch the video, now you have the full perspective. We stress this with our instructors that we've had the benefit of having come through our program, because this program encompasses all of the things that are concerning to you as the leaders. Things that are going to cause complaints, lawsuits, media exposure. Those are things we can control, working together to solve the problem of police use of force, force being misunderstood, and a proper application of de-escalation tactics. Thank you very much for allowing us to be here today. Greatly appreciate your time. Okay, I'm not going anywhere. It's an encore. Why tap? Well, I kind of gave you the rundown, but here is, in our opinion, why. One-stop shopping. One-stop shopping. Now, instead of sending people to 2 or 3, 4 different combatives classes, then a de-escalation instructor class, somebody over here going to different report writings, implicit bias, cultural competency. I've got to pay for all of these things in different areas, and now we're back to block and silo training. It's all in one. It's effective. It works. We've seen it work, because actually John Stuck and I were the first 2 to beta test this program for 3 years in our agency teaching together, and we have seen the changes that have come from this program. And then as a group, we have continued to improve upon what we originally created. This program evolves continually. We make it better. When there's new research that comes out, we offer that research. We integrate those things into our program, so that in the end, you have one place to go to fulfill all of these requirements, whether they're institutional requirements, state requirements, whatever those may be, you've got it in one location. Finally, it's just real folks, researchers and instructors, law enforcement backgrounds, correctional backgrounds, that are actually building this program. And we think what we've put together is something that collectively, once again, we can change the culture within law enforcement and corrections to improve it, not only from the perspective of the media and the public, but the culture within the organization, which is really what we're all looking for. We're all having struggles hiring good people. We're all having struggles retaining those individuals for a 25 or 30-year career. Let's do this collectively, and let's change the culture in our professions so that we become, again, understood, appreciated, and valued by the public and by our communities.
My name is Justin Cherry. I run all the cells for TAP. I appreciate your time, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation so far. I'm going to take you through the technology and implementation side of the platform. If you have any questions, please let us know. Thank you.
Now that we went over what TAP is, let's talk about our technology and how we would implement this into your agency. Our secret sauce on TAP is developed into our website and mobile applications. We have a proprietary learning management system built around the entire training platform, both for your instructors to use and your officers, what I call students. From our learning management system, your instructors control all modules on the training platform. They can assign review assignments to the officers, track what videos they watch, see their test and quiz scores, keep track of all users on the platform. This gives you complete control over all training. Furthermore, everything is templated out for the instructors, meaning when they want to start training on a certain area, all lesson plans are completed and ready to go for each module and video they're training on. This will save your agency time and money from having to have your instructors put together this paperwork. If you want to train on, for instance, ground techniques or cell extraction techniques or handcuffing techniques, just pull up those specific lesson plans and you're good to go. Just as you would expect, your officers training on tap will have access to the entire training platform and all modules, all videos, all content. This helps deliver a world-class training content to every officer in your organization 24/7, 365. No longer do they have to go read a book or get with somebody to learn new training techniques or to revisit training techniques. They simply need to pull up their phones and they have access to everything on the platform 24/7 in the palms of their hand. Our platform is also customizable. If you want certain content removed because it doesn't fit within your protocols for any reason, simply let us know and we can add or remove content at your discretion. We will also be seeking your feedback as you roll this out in order for us to keep crafting content that will help you and your agency. We will solicit your feedback, take any content requests through our committee of legal, medical, and defensive tactics experts, and then shoot our video content in 4K HD quality with a professional film team, and then roll this content out to you on the platform. This ensures we are always evolving with the needs of our clients. Your personnel will all have access to the fitness, nutrition, and agency wellness program as well. To get started, you will send your top instructors to our Master Instructor course in Omaha, Nebraska. Some of your fellow members have already sent personnel to our training course, and we encourage you to speak to them for feedback. We have a 5-day, 40-hour nationally certified Idolist course that will take your instructors through all the modules and training on tap. They will learn not only our content in order to become experts, but they will also learn how to run their own instructor certification course at your facility. Once you have master instructors, those masters can go back to your locations and create their own instructors internally, following the guidance and training agenda on our website platform. This gives you greater control over when and how you certify your own instructors and avoids the cost of having to send people to Omaha every time you need an instructor created. Instructors then certify the regular officers on the TAP training system. We film all of our classes and every session so instructors can always go back and brush up on what they learned over the 5-day course. We also have an offer just for you. We will allow you to send as many instructors to our Master Instructor course in Omaha, Nebraska, coming up in October, in order to vet the program firsthand. Once you have Master Instructors at your agency, you will need to purchase an agency license, which will give access to our training platform to every member of your organization. We have special pricing depending on the amount of users you need, but generally our platform can be rolled out to your entire agency at less than $99 per year per user. Once you have an agency license, you will never pay for another master certification, recertification, or instructor certification again. These are all unlimited on our platform. Again, we greatly appreciate the opportunity to earn your business and to work with you to make your agency smarter, healthier, and better prepared to handle all aspects of their duties. We look forward to hearing from you and addressing any questions you have. To set up an appointment with me to view our platform or to discuss the details, please scan the URL code and fill out the form. Thank you for your time.